It's been about a month since the government relaxed the COVID-19 regulations and protocols around the country. Schools have partially reopened. Personal responsibility was placed on Kenyans to help them navigate COVID-19, and we have seen a loosening of that over the last couple of weeks. Political rallies have been going on around the country, and of course, naturally, as they have, the political temperatures have risen. Speaking of political temperatures, the BBI report that was largely anticipated has been recently released, and with it, a lot of fireworks have come out. My name is Alex Njiri, your host, and I'm joined by Charles Munye, a governance expert, who will be helping us unravel and unpack the BBI report. We will be looking at the BBI report as a highlight, look at, and then of course look at various contentious issues within the report. Charles.
Asante sana. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
How is it going, man?
Not bad at all.
Yes.
Not bad at all. We're good.
Yes.
Yes, and I appreciate being here.
Okay, karibu sana. Yes. So today we are discussing the BBI report. Of course, that has formed the major talking point on Kenyan dinner tables over the last few days. In a nutshell, what is in that report? What can you help us unpack it broadly? What is it that the report addresses?
In order to appreciate where we're coming from, I remember sometimes last year, late last year, there was BBI 1.
November, yes.
Yeah, courtesy of the handshake and subsequently the arrangement on the 9 shared objectives, which gave birth to what we call now the Building Bridges Initiative. And what happened is that last year we got the first report from Kenyans. And after unveiling that report, it was given to Kenyans again through the same committee and a technical team to essentially do 2 things. Number 1, validation of the report in terms of what it contained for Kenyans to confirm that is what actually they intended to be the report.
Correct.
And secondly, there was the aspect of picking out the specific issues for purposes of action, because you cannot action a whole document. You need to split it into smaller bits so that you know if it's issues of policy, if it's issue of this or the other one. So what was happening is that the same information that was contained in the first report, together with bits and pieces that were picked along the process of validation, now we have a document that is actionable in terms of policy issues first and foremost, in terms of administrative issues, in terms of statutory legislation, and of course constitutional issues that point towards maybe an amendment to the constitution.
Does that mean that report number 1
informed what we have?
Yes,
exactly.
Launched last year in November.
Exactly.
And report number 2, are you saying the 2 are?
They're the same document. It's only that one informed the other one.
They're different.
Due to the fact that in order for, when you take it back to the people, the first thing they needed to do, the first responsibility of the team was to validate the document. Validation is about, is this what you said? Is this how you wanted it done? And of course, you build on that by way of extricating the specific issues that can form now the actionables.
Are you saying then there's an opportunity for us to perhaps go back to another validation exercise and then do report number 3?
I think what we shall be meeting with largely is a popular initiative where now, instead of National Assembly and Senate, the bills end up with the county assemblies.
Okay, let me cut you short there. What provisions, for example, in the proposed amendment take the parliamentary route, the the referendum route, and which ones take the parliamentary route? So which ones of the recommendations are the ones that need a national referendum? Then which are the ones that perhaps need the parliamentary process, so that Kenyans can understand as they read there? Because the assumption out there is that this document will be given as it is, the report, and then perhaps form a question where you say you either support the report as it is, where you vote a yes, or you don't support it and vote a no. That's the conception out there.
Now, if you look at the constitution that we have, it allows itself to be amended through, as long as you amend it according to the constitution, the same constitution. So in Articles 255, 256, and 257, those are the articles related to relating to amending the constitution. And if you look at Article 255, it's very clear on what provisions of the constitution you cannot amend without going to a referendum. And one of them is if it affects devolved governments. anything that that affects or changes the way devolved governments work, that is subjected to a referendum. If anything that affects the Bill of Rights, again, that is subjected to a referendum. Anything that affects how Parliament operates or the functions of Parliament, again, that one is subjected to a referendum.
Houses of Parliament?
Both houses
both
of
the
Parliament.
National Assembly and the Senate as well, yeah?
Both houses of Parliament, that's correct.
Okay.
So those are issues, if you look at, and of course independent commissions. If anything that touches on independent commissions is subjected to a referendum, for obvious reasons. I don't think in the wisdom of the people who came up with the Constitution 2010, it was necessary to protect those commissions by virtue of the very independence that we are talking about and the work that they do. So if you look at what we have in terms of the bill, and I think Kenyans need to appreciate that there are 4 thematic areas here that we need to appreciate. That this document, as it is, has policy issues to a large extent, things that will not necessarily have anything to do with legislation. Policy issues, and policy largely is a function of the national government. Then the administrative issues again that will need to be implemented as proposed by Kenyans.
And are those able to, how are they implemented? Is these the ones that I've had people talk about, perhaps a presidential directive as an example?
Precisely.
Okay.
So that's what we are talking about. So Kenyans must appreciate that. Even when you look at the political class, their concern is not really that particular area of administrative issues. It's not about policy issues. Correct. Their concern is not even legislation that will end up in the House of Parliament, because that can be changed at the House of in Parliament, because laws are made in Parliament. So whatever bills you come with, whether they are private or by members or sponsored by the Attorney General, they can be amended in Parliament, and especially on the areas that they have identified as critical. So, and that's why you've noticed most of the issues that will be raised that are contention, we will find them in Article 255 as issues that require we go to a referendum. Okay. So I think what we need to appreciate is that those provisions of the Constitution 255, 256 applies to parliamentary initiative in terms of amending the Constitution. 257 is a clear guideline on how you amend the Constitution through a popular initiative that goes all the way to the county assemblies after collecting 1 million signatures. The first point is that you collect 1 million signatures if you are the proponent of the bill, and then give that together with the bill to IEBC. IEBC verifies the signatures to confirm that those are Kenyans registered voters, then gives the same to all the county assemblies, 47 of them, and they have a certain period of time to look at the bills and pass through them through due process that they use to pass bills. And then after that, the ones that pass are required to pass the bill to both houses, 2 copies, both houses of National Assembly and Senate, together with a certificate that we have passed, we have approved this particular bill. Then from there, Parliament now takes over, looks at it, and then gives to the President. And if it's popular initiative, it does not matter how Parliament votes on the same. As long as they've gotten it, it's been passed by a minimum of 24 county assemblies, then it will end up with the President for purposes of initiating a referendum.
The elections, the next general elections, are only 2 years away. So how are we going to have a scenario where perhaps the referendum might overlap with the campaigns for the 2022 elections, for example? So could you very quickly take us through that cycle?
First and foremost, knowing Kenyans, this will form and inform the politics of the day. So as you speak, I am sure there's a lot of politics being played for 2022. I don't think anything will overlap anything else, because as we speak, I think the campaigns are on, and most of the issues being raised relate to elections 2022 by whichever side of the divide that you're looking at.
I would probably want to look at the possibility of the legal challenge in the judiciary either being successful or taking a bit of time off this process. So if you were to address it from that context,
I would refuse completely to hold brief for the judiciary. Because I am sure you'll invite them here, and they'll be able to say why they were not represented. But of course, the judiciary is about learned individuals in terms of these are legal minds. They would be a bit shy to appear in a forum of that nature, having not looked critically at the document and due process followed within their ranks and file on how they look at documents of this nature, so that they can be able to have a proper informed input on this issue. So I would want to believe that would be the reason. It's not about despising the process or having an issue with the process.
Fair enough. But now, where do you see us finishing this process. And I ask this from from an area of where you're doing this with a conservative, element, such that you make room for all those processes. Yeah, you talk of public participation, which I believe there'll be a form of, one form or another. So given that whole cycle, how long do you think, guesstimate?
I think because this is a political process, naturally every politician, and the two principals are also politicians, they will whip their assemblies, as it were, and then of course parliament, both houses, to be able to fast track this process. The only institution I would give sufficient time in terms of what is allowable, the so-called 3 months, 60 days, whatever it is the IEBC, because those ones you cannot rush them, because they need to do a lot in the interim to be able to get there. So 5 months, give or take. Considering, if you remember, there was a time ODM was pulling something close to this, talking to assemblies. And some assemblies would approve even before they look at what it is that they were approving. A day or two, they've discussed it and it's passed. And so even this bill, you'll be surprised. It lands in those assemblies. You'll find 10 assemblies, 15 assemblies approving it. Because after all, remember, it's really affecting positively the functioning of the county assemblies. They are very nice goodies in terms of even independence from the executive at the county level. So I have a feeling they will start there and look at it and positively and say, if we don't pass this particular bit, then I mean, come on, the goods are too good. The good things are too good in terms of what is coming to us to be worried about the small issues.
Fair enough, Charles.
Yes.
How do you justify having more MPs in a country where we already feel that there's an overrepresentation?
I think we need to look at the other side, that all Kenyans are equal before the law, and that is provided for in Article 27, that all of us are equal. And if you look at even political rights in Article 38, on your vote, if you are from Ruiru, and you're the MP for Ruiru, and you have 400 Kenyans that you're serving, and in terms of the power that you have in Parliament, it's for one person, you are one vote. It does not feel fair, because you are representing twice or 3 times the number of people that are represented by someone else, and yet when you go to Parliament to debate on issues serious in nature, to the extent that we are to look at what was happening in the Senate the other day about allocation of revenue to counties, and you find a senator like the Senator of Kiambu with 2.4 million people having to vote in one vote only, compared to another county with half or less than half that kind of population, and decisions being made based on that particular vote. And I think, to me, if you look at the balancing aspect, it is more expensive for the person in Ruiru when you are represented by one person, when an equal number of individuals living in a certain other area is represented by 3 or 4 more people. And by the way, remember, these things come with other benefits. Much as we have constituencies with multi-representation, meaning they have multiple members to represent them, they are coming with goodies. And I want to believe the National Government CDF Act is going to be amended, because those are the things that when you implement some of these things, those are the consequential issues that you must deal with in terms of the other legislations, taking care of that, so that even that MP must fit in the Constituency Oversight Committee established by the National Government CDF Act, so that...
Are these nominated MPs?
No, they're not nominated, they're elected. We'll have 360 elected MPs, elected in 290 constituencies.
How does that work?
That works in this way. Ruiru will have maybe 2 MPs, not 1. So Ruiru is going to vote for 2 MPs. You campaign across the constituency, you are voted in, maybe number 1, number 2 become MPs. Number 2 become members of the National Assembly. Let's be clear, even because senators are also MPs. The person in Ruiru would rather have that. So when you have 2 members representing you in that regard, and of course moving backwards with resources in terms of bursary, in terms of CDF, in terms of all these other things, in recognition of the fact that you are more than they are in other counties. And I think this is something that is coming out clearly. The cost of hiring those extra MPs is mitigated seriously by the same. Number 2, remember, the National Assembly, as it were, is going to lose 47 members, because members of the so-called woman representatives, a woman elected in each county to represent the county, will move to the Senate. Or rather, they will be senators now. They will vie as senators. So it will not be like they're going to find the number that is usually there. they will move from 247 or 240 something to 360. So the increase in terms of the numbers there is not that much, if you ask me. Number two, you realize we still have a matter, an advisory pending before the president, and of course that matter is in court, might not be able to say a lot about it, on the need for Parliament to go home because of the two-thirds gender parity issue.
Yes, yes.
And that advisory is still pending. So if it's not resolved through an amendment to the Constitution and a provision that can be able to bring more members, more lady members to especially the National Assembly, because the Senate is going to sort itself out naturally, then you might find us getting into trouble courtesy of the same advisory.
But how is it, just help me understand, how is it sorted when these 70 members are not, they're not women, it's not reserved for women, and we've also lost the women reps from Parliament, we've taken them to Senate. So Parliament then becomes a body of men only. How do we then run the risk of the next Parliament getting the president being
I don't think we have gotten to a point where we don't know whether they are going to be women or not. I think we are still looking at that.
Are you confident they'll be women?
Until we see the bill finally.
Yes.
Before IEBC and it's published as a bill that we are voting for,
yes,
then we cannot confirm here that they are going to be mixed. Okay. It's open. Okay. Because if you realize, even the report is proposing the aspect of proportional representation is being looked into, so that even at nomination level. And remember, this is just one of the motivators. There is another motivator, because IEBC is required now, as of law, to ensure the party list that they end up with for purposes of elections contains a balance of the gender, persons living with disability, and youth, and other marginalized. So IBC will not just accept any party list.
But how does that happen, Charles?
Yes.
Without a provision in the Constitution?
Yes.
And does that then touch on Article 1? By doing so, do they infringe on the rights of the constituents or the voters within those particular constituencies? It might be a constituency, it could be a county,
I think political parties, you've seen political parties making decisions, or even on nominations.
Correct, yes.
And that has been there. You've seen even decisions that don't look very pleasant, still getting their day, and being the positions that end up being adopted. That's importantly, right, yeah. It's not just one thing. Remember, the political parties fund now will not just be given as usual. 15% of the same will go to a party, depending on the number of seats that have been secured by women in the preceding elections. So there are a lot of motivating aspects. IEBC, again, will have to craft regulations on how you ensure that party list is compliant, as it were.
So this is left to the political parties?
Precisely, and to IEBC, because that has to happen. Yes. And remember, IEBC has stood indicted even a while back on the same, and they were blamed for not guiding in their two roles. Number one, their role as the people who receive the lists, because it comes from parties to them, and number two, as the people who are supposed to guide on regulations to conduct nominations and elections. Okay. So I think ultimately we'll have a list. And remember, the BBI team shied away from implementing what we would call pure proportional representation voting system that would take care of this.
Because of the politics around that, yeah?
Where the counties, you'll have one constituency called a county, Kiambu, 20 MPs, you go there, you vie, then number one a man, number two a woman, number three precisely, and then give a list of 20 containing everything. We vote for the party with the highest number, proportional to 15 seats, you get your 15 seats, you identify the one number 2 up to 15 become members of parliament representing Kiambu County. They realize Kenyans love and are attached to constituencies. Yes. So they stuck with the constituencies as they are, and then they said some of the constituencies can have multiple members. So it's actually a balancing
in terms of the CDF as well. Yeah? So moving on, Charles, and we really only have about a couple of minutes left. Yes. I want us to very quickly just go through the issues surrounding the executive. Yes. And of course the creation of the leader of opposition party. I mean, the leader of opposition position. Official position. And of course making them members of parliament.
I think, let us put it this way, in terms of inclusiveness, there are two issues. The winner takes it all was about what you're talking about, Jubilee taking over all the seats. Now, The reality is, today, Raila Odinga would be in parliament. So he would be very vibrant, checking on government. And William Ruto, Deputy President, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta would be on their toes, serving Kenyans and not wondering how 22 works, because it would be about service to the people and what you've delivered. Then the baton the president was talking about gets passed to the next person, and then it moves like that. The position of official opposition leader being co-opted into parliament and being given resources, his people, the people that were voting for him and believed he's going to win, would feel included in these things, because he would have all these things, give him even outriders, let him look very huge, so that he also doesn't waste away for 5 years or even 10 years. And in the hope that at some time in future, the relevance aspect, how do you become relevant when you have to delegate everything you believed in to a leader of a minority in parliament, and there is no way you're coming in? So I think that is how you heal this issue in one way of inclusivity, as it were. The second aspect is what was raised by His Excellency, the Deputy President. We are on the same side, but we have won the presidency. We do not have a majority in the National Assembly to be able to appoint a prime minister. Is that not what we have always been doing? Number one, there are 7 days you can do coalitions. And in the event the coalition that is there that brought in so many members is the other side, is the one whose candidate became number 2. Then what should happen is that now you have an opportunity to even have a handshake with that particular person. And that is what we do. From Kibaki's time, we have always had a way. Now we are giving it a legal grounding.
So we're making a handshake.
Grounding.
We're making a handshake
part
of the
constitutional
constitution.
issue. So that instead of pretending that Kenyans will come from mass to unite us, we have a provision in the constitution that says, hey, you guys have a majority. It means Kenyans out there wanted you guys to have a position, a say on issues of this nature. Bring this person. Let this person be the prime minister.
But they can be fired at any time by the president.
Exactly. If it doesn't function properly, you give us another one, because you're still the majority political party. What I'm trying to say is, this is Kenya, and we are unique. Our democracy is unique. We are unique individuals where we are able to fight, antagonize each other, then 2 minutes later we are laughing with each other, like the good Oginde said. We are that kind of a people, and we need to appreciate that. If it's grounded in law, now that you don't have, because now what will happen is that people will try as much as possible to build coalitions before, then you'll find all these small little parties disappearing, because you want to be a force. The numbers and everything. That is how democracy grows, when you have that kind of a motivator. And let us not act as if we fear. We know you have demarcated the aspect of coalitions, post-election coalition, because they look like they're being forced down your throat. They look like you're being held at ransom. But the reality is, ultimately, it took Uhuru Muigai and Raila Odinga, two antagonists, coming together for some reasonable peace and then tranquility, and people can function. It took a few years ago, President Kibaki, Raila Odinga again, coming together, quickly done agreement. Then we had, I think, the biggest per capita growth in, growth in this.
The largest growth ever recorded for this country.
Precisely.
Charles,
yes,
it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
A pleasure.
I hope we can have you back here soon. We unravel, all those things, because there's so many things we've not spoken about that I would have wished us to look at. The concept of Utu as a national philosophy, and
and Utu goes with Ushenzi. By the way, you cannot have Utu without Ushenzi on the other side. If you are either a good person or Ushenzi.
Yes. Okay. I'm sure that's something we'll be talking about very soon. So right, viewers. It was lovely going through the BBI report with governance expert Charles Monywe. He's taken us through the highlights of the good and perhaps what needs to be changed. Have you read the report, and what's your score? Until next week, my name is Alex. See you again.